What if I told y'all that the recent events that occurred between the Raptors and the Lakers were all part of the Lakers game plan? What if I told y'all that LeBron James, aka the King himself, had the Raptors playing to his playstyle from the get-go? And what if I told y'all that despite the result that transpired in this game, the Raptors are still on course to where they need to be going into the future? Now, you may think that I'm being crazy or something of that nature, but I don't blame you for it. Why? Because in hindsight, it's really hard to really think about it, as people are usually caught up in the emotions of trying to win and lose. But once you step back and look at it, you really can see these questions come to light, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So let's get into it. Now, from watching this game either live or through the replays, you think that, especially in that first half, in hindsight, this is a game that the Raptors should have taken. I mean, they were doing everything in their power to make sure they won. Whether that be slashing the paint, whether that be making threes, whether that be making the extra pass, whether that be rebounding and things of that nature. And as a Raptors fan, I was pretty happy with what I was seeing, because not only did it show me that the Raptors are trying to improve with every single game, but more importantly, the stuff that we were trying to tell them up to this point, they're finally seeming to really resonate with it, and they're trying to do whatever they can to execute that at a higher level. And I don't know about you all, but even though the Raptors were doing well in that first half, for some reason, while that first half was going on, it felt like the Lakers were using the Raptors as puppets, so to speak. What I mean is that even though the Raptors had a good lead in that first quarter and start to second quarter, it felt that as though the Lakers were really allowing the Raptors to play at a pace that is more beneficial for them down the road. And that thought became more of a reality, especially in the later stages of the second quarter and going into the second half. And I believe what really sealed it was when D'Angelo Russell made that prayer up buzzer beater to send the game into the second half. Because at that point, I felt like the momentum for the Lakers already shifted, and with LeBron's IQ and every experience that he's had up to that point, there's no way that the Lakers were going to let this game just slip away from them. And unfortunately, that is exactly what happened in that second half, because the Lakers just used the momentum that D'Angelo Russell had from that buzzer beater to make sure that all of their possessions were high caliber possessions, and by the time the fourth quarter started, they were already at a 20-point lead, and they were just able to maintain that for the rest of the game and ultimately come up with a win. So shout out to the Lakers for hanging in there and striking hard when they felt that the Raptors really let their guard down. Now, while we're talking about the events that occurred in this Lakers versus Raptors game, shout out to two Raptors players that brought it their all to this game, which is RJ Barrett and Ochai Agbaji. And the important thing to note is, especially in this game, both of these players didn't fill up the whole stat sheet. However, the presence was known throughout the whole game. For RJ Barrett's case, he was more of a playmaker, and you could really tell that the whole team benefited and got an additional boost when RJ Barrett was dishing out the ball to them. And I think that is very critical, because as I said before in previous videos, early on the Raptors need to do a good job of making sure that everyone's involved in the play, because doing so will just help the whole team not only build chemistry with each other, but also it will help them not make crucial mistakes as the game gets more tight in the fourth quarter. And in Ochai Agbaji's case, as I said in the previous video, more specifically when we played the Clippers, Ochai Agbaji continues to improve his game this season, and he made sure he knocked down a lot of threes in this game, especially in the corners. I'm talking the left and right corner. In fact, it was so good that at one point in this game, a stat was brought up about Ochai Baji's shooting, and they said that he is, I think, like 70% from the left corner and like 40% from the right corner, which in NBA terms means that he's pretty much automatic. And I can't express how important that is, especially with how the Raptors were playing this season and our schedule, because if we didn't get that contribution from Ochai Baji, well, to put it simply, it would be very tough for the Raptors to even come back in a lot of these games and make it as competitive as possible. So shout out to Ochai Baji as well as RJ Barrett for doing what they did in this game and ultimately helping the Raptors attempt to win this game. Now, even though we are dead last in the East with a 2-9 record after all the events that transpired between the Raptors and Lakers game that happened recently, I still feel that the Raptors are on the right path to where they need to be going into the later stages of the season as well as their future as a whole, because quite frankly we are better than our record, and I really hope that no one else tells you otherwise. This is because if we somehow played as our record indicated, that just means that we cannot compete with any of the other teams in the NBA, which is definitely not the case, because we've seen it up to this point that we've competed at an extremely high level with all the opponents that we faced. And mind you, our opponents are all playoff contending teams that have high aspirations of getting to the finals or making it deep in the playoffs. And we've only lost to them by 2 to 5 points at most. Of course, there are the outliers being the Cleveland Cavaliers, which right now they're on a 12-game win streak to start the season, and then the Lakers with LeBron's IQ and things of that nature, which helped them explode the lead differential in those areas. But for the most part, we're competing at a high level. And as Raptors fans, we cannot be any more happier with this result, because it just shows how competitive the team is as a whole. Now, with this being said though, two things that I would like to see the Raptors make as improvements for future games of the season are rebounding as well as not fouling the opponents, because I believe that these two factors are very important as they will decide whether the opponent can either climb back into this game or run away with this game completely. And as a Raptors community, we should not be providing these types of opportunities to the opponent to leverage, because not only does it really take a hit at the trust that we all have to one another, but more importantly, it just really depletes like the momentum that we've gained up to this point. And I believe that is something that the Raptors do not want to experience at any point in their journey. So hopefully the Raptors coaches, assistant coaches, and everyone else in that organization find some way to mitigate the amount of rebounds we're giving up, as well as mitigate the amount of fouls we're providing to the opponents. And I believe that by doing so, we'll have a better chance of winning more games as a whole. So yeah, overall, you can say that this game was played to the Lakers' liking, and you can tell that LeBron had a good understanding of everything that's going on in this game. But despite all this, the Raptors really made this a game, especially in that first half. And honestly, that is something that it's definitely a win for the Raptors, because once again, it's more experience for the Raptors to take into future games. Because going forward, we'll know from games like this where even though we have a good lead going into the first half or anything like that, there is a chance that the opponent may try to come back through any types of tactics, whether that be trying to move the momentum in their favor or getting outside assistance. And I believe that as the Raptors continue to experience more of these and all the other situations to come, we'll be able to find more and more countermeasures to the point where by the time that we've seen it all, we'll be able to just find our ultimate countermeasure to every type of situation. And by that point, our formation and everything else related to everything we need to improve on will be fully fixed, or at the very least, it will be solidified to the point where the weaknesses wouldn't show, and we'll be able to reap the benefits of the victories that come after that point. So with that being said, if you like these types of videos, make sure to give me one of these, smash that subscribe button and hit that bell, and until next time, Sif signing out.